Please be seated. Four things. Just four things why Christmas is important. Just four things from the story. Do you remember the first part of the story? Who was the first character we heard that we booed? Emperor Augustus. Who's Emperor Augustus? Well, Emperor Augustus was known as the boss of bosses, the king of kings, the lord of lords. And how he became the boss of bosses, the king of kings, and the lord of lords is he went up to people with a sword and said, I am the boss of bosses and the king of kings and the lord of lords. And anyone who disagreed with Emperor Augustus was killed. The beginning of this story is Emperor Augustus. And it's such a funny name, Emperor Augustus. Of course, emperor just means, the boss. And Augustus just means the great one. So he was the great boss. And what a terrible boss he was. And God saw the emperors of this world and said, they are not the boss of bosses. They are not the Lord of lords. They are not the King of kings. I will show them a better way. And instead of coming to us with a sword, God came to us as a little baby. And who's afraid of a baby? Except maybe first-time parents. But who is afraid of a baby? God comes to us as a baby on Christmas, and this is very important because there are people in this world who think that power is about grasping and controlling and manipulating, and the one who is the richest wins and the one who's the most powerful wins. And God says no. No to Emperor Augustuses from all over the world. No, you are not the boss. I am the boss, and I come to you as a baby. This is important when we go into this world and we're confronted with Augustuses. Do not be afraid of them. Do not let your hearts be discouraged by them. But connect your heart to God, and God will show you what a helper is, what a friend is, what love is. This is why Christmas is important, so we're not afraid of Emperor Augustus. The second thing that I think is important about Christmas is what the angel says to the shepherds. What do angels always say? Oh my goodness. Say it again. This is so important. There is a lot to be afraid about in this world. Does anyone ever watch the news? Yeah, there's a lot to be afraid of in the world. Anyone ever play on a playground? Yes. There's lots to be afraid of. Any ever go to school or go to a job that you don't really like? Yes. There's lots to be afraid of in this world. God is not suppressed by fear. When God sees fear, God takes love and pokes it like a balloon, pokes the fear like a balloon so that there's only love. When we read in Scripture that God is love, that's not just a nice sentiment. That's a whole turning up and over the whole foundations of this world. A world that seems to be built on fear. Fear sells books. Fear buys airtime. But God says, do not be afraid. It's important to celebrate Christmas so that we remember at least once a year, do not be afraid. Do not let fear control you. Do not let fear turn you into an Emperor Augustus, because there's a very close step between fear and becoming a boss of bosses to try to control and manipulate this world. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid of the things you see in this world, but overcome the fear that you see or you feel with love, because God has shown us who God is in love. The third thing, why it's important to celebrate Christmas. It's in this line here. The shepherds went slowly and found Mary and Joseph and the child, right? The shepherds went slowly. The shepherds took their... No, is that wrong? How did the shepherds go? Hastily, quickly. This is so important when it comes to Christmas. My friends, this is so important. There is a lot of trouble that's in this world. There's a lot of trouble. There are people who are mean to other people and try to push people down. There are people taking advantage of other people. There is racism and there's misogyny and there's a lot of things in this world that are beating people down. We cannot approach them slowly to help them. We have to go with haste to help them. Followers of Jesus were known as a quick folk, a fast folk. A folk, when they saw problems, went with haste to solve the problem. Followers of Jesus developed schools and hospitals and adoption societies because they saw the problems of this world and they went slowly to fix it. How did they go? With haste. Christmas is so important to remind us because, oh my goodness, come January, February, March, and April, I start slowing down. But it's to remind us that the needs of this world need to be met by the love of our hearts. We go with haste to help this world and to heal it with Jesus. The fourth and final thing why Christmas is important has to do with this. What do we call this? A manger. Say that again. Now say the word as though it's spelt M-A-N-G-E-R. What's the word now? Manger. Oh my goodness. Now of course it makes sense that manger is manger because this is where the animals manged, right? This is where they ate. This is where they ate. But there is a beautiful mystery here that God is showing us when Jesus comes and is placed in a manger. What God is saying is, I know how hangry you are. I know that the problems of this world are getting you down, and you are turning yourselves into monsters, hurting one another, fighting one another, and I have an answer for that. It's food. Oh, isn't it great to have a good meal? Don't you feel better, like you can solve the world's problems when your belly is full? The same is true in the spiritual world. We are spiritually hangry. That's why there's war. That's why there's bullying. That's why there's people fighting each other, because they're spiritually hungry. That's why people don't have any hope. They're spiritually hungry. So when God comes to us and places Jesus in a manger, what God is doing is inviting us to this table so that we have the food we need to have hope again in this world, to share peace, to go with haste into the world, sharing the love of God with Jesus Christ, who is born today. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!